Rewrite has the same trig function of an acute angle. Okay, these are not the simplest thing you've ever seen, but hang in there, we'll get through it. They say rewrite has the trig function of an acute angle. Acute angle means between 0 and 90 degrees, which means in quadrant 1. So when they give us an angle here like 140, we have to find some equivalent that's in quadrant 1. So if you draw 140, there it is. What's its reference angle? Think of this as you go around to 180 degrees and then you back up 40 degrees. That's how you get to 140. So there ought to be some relationship between this triangle in quadrant 2 and this triangle, also 40 degrees, in quadrant 1. So sine 140 is perhaps connected to the sine of plain old 40. The other thing, actually, I'm just going to leave that there and we'll come back to it in a moment. There's one more step we have to do, but we'll do them all at once. Tan 323, where is that? 0, 90, 180, 270, 360 degrees, and then you'd have to back up 37 degrees to get to tan 323. They want something in the first quadrant, an acute angle, so I'm saying there's probably some relationship between that and the tan of just 37. Tan 37. Cosine 165 is over here. What's its reference angle? Imagine going around to 180 and then having to back up to 165. You'd have to back up 15 degrees. So that's our reference angle. It's saying there ought to be some connection between these. Something between cosine 165 and cosine 15. Sine 287. Just remind you, none of these are finished answers yet, but we'll get this step out of the way and then go back and do the next bit. Sine 287 would mean 90, 180, 270. Let's see, there'd be another 17 degrees here. 90 minus 17 means this is a 73 degree angle. So if you want an acute angle, it's 73 degrees up here. Cosine 308. 90, 180, 270. 308 would mean you've got 38 degrees here. So the angle we really want, the reference angle, would be 52 degrees. So our acute angle is 52 degrees in quadrant 1. Right, I'm getting behind here. This should be sine 73, and this one is related to cosine 52. Tan 199, last one. 180 degrees plus another 19 degrees. So that's a 19 degree reference angle. That should be connected somehow to this 19 degree reference angle. So tan 199 is somehow related to tan 19. Now, the last thing we need is the sign, whether these things are positive or negative. Sine 140 and sine 40 have the same reference angle, which means if you put them into the calculator, they'll give you the same number. But what about their signs? This one is positive because it's in quadrant 2. Sorry, quadrant 1. This one is positive because it's in quadrant 2, so they have the same sign. There's no need to change anything. Sine 140 is exactly the same as sine 40. Here, we have tan 323, which because it's in quadrant 4 is negative, but tan 37 is positive, so we'd have to put a negative sign out here to make their signs come out the same. In other words, if these have the same sign, you put plus. If these have different signs, you put minus. here two cosines. Cosine is positive in this quadrant and negative in this quadrant, so we have to add in a negative sign. Sine here is positive in this quadrant, negative in this quadrant, so we need a negative again. Cosine is positive in this quadrant, positive in this quadrant, so positive is okay there. In other words, these have the same sign. There's no need to change anything. And for tangent, tangent is positive in quadrant 1 and positive in quadrant 3, so again, these two are identical. There's no need to flip the sign. Okay, so the things to get here are that these angles are related in that they have the same reference angle. Same with these two and these two. They all have the same reference angles. That means the numbers that they give you are going to be identical, except for maybe a negative sign. You figure out the negative sign by remembering the cast rule and looking at what quadrants those two triangles are in.